The seawall mist is starting to disperse. I've been very lucky so far. This makes for great cover, but I better prepare myself. I need to get moving. I will be clearly visible very soon. London, in all its desolate glory, is the last uninhabitable sanctuary. The last islands of Albion have all been claimed along with their resources. And as far as I'm aware, we're the only tribe who's been able to break into London and come out alive. The animals are calling each other. They're making my presence known. Gog and Magog will be watching. Archimedes, a nickname well deserved, is here somewhere. scouting, looking for resources we may be able to scavenge. Bargaining with Gog and Magog, but he's been gone longer than expected. The Queen needs to see him as soon as possible, and it's my job to bring him back. Archimedes, in succession for the kingship, and seeing as our present king is not much longer for this world, I need to find him fast. I'll keep to the lanes and alleys, the winding paths through the city. He's bound to follow their geography, out of the reach of and to be respectful to Gog and Magog. No reason to push our presence in their faces, their huge, scathing faces. My other duty is to enact a prayer, a ritual for the people of the Isle of Cats. A prayer for the present unknown, for breaking attachments, for strength, to what has come before and to what will come next. I'll be expected to do another talk on London when I return. To truly see the history of London, you have to look up. You have to look up to the tops of the buildings. That's where the history lies. I'll start with the quote which sums up the city in all of its incarnations. Whoever considers the great irregularity of London's buildings, the immense number of its lanes, alleys and courts, must think they have been intended for the very purpose of concealment. The whole city appears as a vast wood or forest, in which the thief may hide in its great security, as wild beasts do. Dear Henry Fielding, you were very, very right in your assumption. The suited wild beasts that were here last became untamable in their lust for accumulation. The term finite wasn't in their vocabulary, and that was just the start of our problems. No one ever thought the giants would return to Britain. They quickly made the fact clear that what was left of the British Isles should be returned to its rightful name. Albion. Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman change very quickly to fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of corruption. Or better known to the ex-corporate elite that were here, campaign donations. It's what the children sing now. Infinite speculation within finite resources doesn't lead to emancipation. Trickle-down economics was the fairy tale fallacy of a generation. Legislated watered-down economics against the rising tide of, well, the rising tide wasn't economical. Eventually, disporification was implemented across London. The private no-go areas started to outnumber the areas of common land 10 to 1. The banking alliances formed a cartel, and through legal loopholes the enforced disporification was advertised as salvation. The last thing they expected, though, was to wake the giants under Guildhall. Gog and Magog. They had been there since the 4th millennia, dormant, waiting for when London needed them again. The protectors of London put there by the Romans when Albion was first conquered. Folklore without mass communication became the law again. They rampaged through the city, devouring those that remained, the ones safely hiding in their offices. The hedge fund managers, the CEOs, they had to come out eventually, through starvation. Then their bones were broiled and used to make bread. Gog and Magog sent out the fairies and imps to bring down the telecommunication systems. The last information we got globally was that in the Americas, John Henry had risen from his grave in the sandpit, in between where the White House and the railroad in Virginia Penitentiary used to be. We're told he imprisoned the Green Giant and forced him to plant redwood trees in North Dakota, where Paul Bunyan and Babe were already working hard. In Scandinavia, the frost giants had taken over and were heading into Russia. The Norse gods were nowhere to be seen. In India, Kali was seen waving her sword atop the dome of the Taj Mahal. And in Australia, thousands and thousands of Yowies were seen burrowing out of Ayers Rock, with the words Uluru being carved into the side of the enormous mound. Then, from what we can gather, it must have been the Americans that bombed the Sahara solar fields. Then, we knew we were all going to live in a truly different world. We are careful now. We have to be. We have respect for what we have and don't have any more. It appears there's an air of work afoot in the city. Perhaps Gog and Magog have sent the imps and fairies to task. The city is being maintained. Though, we citizens of the Isles of Cats also have a few creatures on the inside. It is said that a dog's bark at night in London is a sign of death. Houndsditch. I wonder if the animals will pile up the dead bodies of their dogs here, just like we used to. Jesus was right to throw the money changers out of the temple. We never took that lesson seriously enough. The banking cartel's Pluto conglomeration duped a whole nation with their pledges of security, building the sea wall around London, triple reinforced galvanized steel and concrete. The waters were going to rise globally. The damage to the ecosphere was severe. The only logical path was to implement new strategies. Solar technology was planned for everywhere. In all glass, on all buildings, they could now help power themselves. Footfall harvesting utilized throughout the land, where energy is collected from specialized pavements, tide and wind technology in vast new forms. All societies have the capacity to change rapidly. World War II and the space race had taught us that we can move direction with haste. To implement the new proposed changes, the new Green, Labour, Democratic coalition put in emergency regulations of bringing in all assets and capital into the national purse. That's when the descent started, halting the banking industry and legislating an involuntary nationalization of the conglomeration's assets and capital, resulted in a tyrannicide on a global scale. That's when the giants came back. That's when we lost London. That's when things really changed. Those responsible nearest the London City Airport managed to get away. They were able to fly to New Zealand where their bolt-hole properties waited for them. Our king and queen lead the council, the Isles of Cats. They are not a partnership endowed by marriage. They lead the meritocratic system that governs the island. Located between London and the Mancunian archipelago, we have a varied and rich culture. We had to come here, back to London and over the sea wall. It's the last place to scavenge. The other islands of Albion have used all their resources, and the infighting makes bartering too dangerous. The system we have now works pretty well. Everyone takes turns in duties that have to be done. Maintenance on all levels is maintained by all. There are no hierarchies in which those who hold power are not also involved within the maintenance of the system. Everyone is involved. By spending time in play and learning, we are now a species hell-bent on cultural capital. Education, sharing, surviving, meditation and rebuilding fill our time. We are a childish species, but we're growing up. Slowly. Must be the Russians heading over to America. They must be desperate. They must be using the last of their fuel. On the Isle of Cats we have found a god to worship, and it is the god of ourselves. We are spiritual creatures leading human lives. We know it's faith in faith, but hope and faith are born of the same Father, and the Father needs to learn to love more like the Mother.